All right, so let's jump into this deep dive today.
Yeah.
It's something that I think a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah.
And that is surviving midterms while also needing to survive paying rent.
Yes, absolutely.
You know that time when it feels like exams and work demands are like they're both just hitting you at the same time?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I make this work?
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring a podcast episode that focuses on working students.
Okay.
And just hearing their stories is incredibly inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
But also they're packed with practical tips
For sure.
that I think we can all learn from.
Absolutely. Juggling work and academics is such a balancing act.
Yeah.
And these stories give us insights into not just surviving, but like actually thriving.
Totally. So let's meet our first working student, Sarah.
Okay.
She's a marketing major working at a busy restaurant and at the same time trying to ace her midterms.
Right.
Can you even imagine like late night study sessions after working a full shift waiting tables?
Oh, man. It's definitely not easy.
I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So how does she even manage that?
So Sarah actually talked about using time blocking as a strategy to manage her time.
Okay, time blocking. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've never actually tried it myself, but did it really work for her?
It did. She said it helped her stay organized and avoid that feeling of just being totally overwhelmed.
Okay.
By giving each task a specific time slot.
Yeah.
You know, she was able to focus on what needed to get done without feeling like it was all happening at once.
So it's not just finding the time to study, it's like intentionally scheduling it.
Exactly.
Almost like it's a work shift.
Yes, exactly. And what I thought was really interesting is that she didn't just focus on managing her own time.
Yeah.
She prioritized communicating with her manager.
That's a good point because I always feel awkward like bringing up my class schedule with my boss.
Yeah.
So what does she say?
So instead of saying, hey, I need time off, she offered a solution.
Oh, that's smart.
She proposed swapping shifts with a coworker
Okay.
during exam week.
And did her manager go for that?
Yeah, her manager was happy to accommodate that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So she was really proactive.
she was.
Good for her.
It takes a lot of courage.
It does.
And her story reminds us that employers can be really understanding when you come to them with solutions.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so time blocking and proactive communication.
Yes.
Huge takeaways from Sarah's experience.
Big ones, yeah.
What about our next working student?
So let's talk about Josh, a final year student,
Okay.
juggling a demanding internship at a tech startup
Oh, wow.
on top of a full course load.
That's a lot of pressure.
Talk about pressure, right?
How do you even find time to breathe
Yeah.
with all of that?
He had a strategy, and it might surprise you.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He woke up every morning at 5 a.m. to study.
5
a.m.
Wow.
That's some serious dedication.
It is.
I don't know, I could function at that hour.
Yeah,
But I guess it makes sense if you're trying to fit everything in.
right.
Did he mention what he studied during these early morning sessions? He focused on the most challenging subjects or tasks first.
Okay.
You know, the ones that required the most brain power.
Yeah.
He knew his mind was the sharpest in the morning, so he used that time to tackle those tougher academic hurdles.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about waking up early, it's about leveraging your peak productivity times.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so this early bird strategy.
Yeah.
Did it actually help him keep up with his internship demands?
It did. He was able to stay on top of his academic workload.
Okay.
But just like Sarah, he understood the value of open communication.
Mm-hmm.
He actually reached out to both his professors and his internship supervisor.
Wow. That's something I really struggle with, you know? It feels so intimidating to tell your supervisor that you're struggling to balance everything.
I can imagine.
So what happened when he reached out?
The outcome was actually really positive.
Oh, good.
His supervisor was impressed with his honesty and proactiveness,
Really?
and they were more than willing to work with him, even pushing back a presentation deadline to ease the pressure.
That's awesome. It really shows that having these open conversations can really make a difference.
It does.
You never know what kind of support you might find when you're honest about your challenges.
That's true.
So we've heard from two incredibly resilient students so far.
We have.
What's like the common thread that you see in their stories?
What strikes me is their proactive approach to problem solving.
Okay.
They didn't just accept being overwhelmed.
Right.
They actively sought out solutions, whether it was through time management techniques or communication, or even just understanding their own productivity patterns.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we have more control than we think we do?
We do.
Like, we don't have to just passively accept chaos.
Yeah,
We can actively shape our experience.
that's right.
But let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
What are some study techniques that can help students like Sarah and Josh maximize their limited time?
So one technique that comes up a lot is the idea of micro-study sessions.
Micro-study sessions. I like the sound of that. What are those?
It's all about breaking down your study time into more manageable chunks, maybe like 10 or 15 minutes at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of like a 3-hour study marathon,
Right.
you're squeezing in these little bursts of focused learning.
Exactly. And it kind of ties into Sarah's story.
Yeah.
You know, she used those breaks at work or her commute time to squeeze in some extra studying.
Yeah,
It all adds up.
that's a good point. I could definitely see myself trying that, like instead of just mindlessly scrolling through my phone during a break.
Yeah.
I could quickly review some flashcards or listen to a recording of a lecture.
Yeah.
Are there any other study hacks that can boost efficiency, especially for those short bursts of study time?
Absolutely. So the source material actually dives into two really effective techniques: active recall and spaced repetition.
Active recall. I feel like I've heard of that, but I don't think I could explain it.
Okay.
And spaced repetition sounds kind of like a science fiction concept.
Right.
What are those?
They sound really fancy, but they're actually pretty simple.
Okay.
Active recall is basically testing yourself on the material.
Okay.
Instead of just like passively reading or highlighting,
Yeah.
you're actually trying to retrieve that information from memory.
So like quizzing yourself.
Yeah, like quizzing yourself, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see how that would be a lot more effective than just staring at my notes and hoping it sticks.
Yes, it makes your brain work harder,
Right.
and that actually strengthens the memory.
Okay.
And spaced repetition kind of builds on that concept.
Mhm.
It's all about reviewing the material at increasing intervals.
Okay.
So you review something today, then maybe 2 days later, then a week later, and so on.
Oh, so it's like reminding your brain, hey, don't forget this.
Exactly.
I actually use Quizlet sometimes,
Uh-huh.
and I think that has a spaced repetition feature built in.
Yeah, it does. And there's lots of other apps and tools
Mhm.
specifically designed for spaced repetition.
Okay, cool.
It's a really effective way to move information from short-term to long-term memory.
So it's like we're building a personalized study plan tailored to how our brains actually learn.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. Are there any other practical tips for maximizing those micro-study sessions?
There's one that might surprise you.
Okay.
Try studying while standing up or even walking around.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be distracting? I feel like I need to be like curled up in a chair with a blanket to really focus.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but changing your posture can actually combat fatigue and keep you more engaged with the material.
I guess when I think about it, I often feel my brain starting to fog up.
Yeah.
If I sit in the same position for too long,
Yeah,
maybe a little movement would help.
exactly. And if you're still struggling to focus, the source material also mentions the Pomodoro technique.
Pomodoro technique, that sounds familiar. I
Yeah.
don't really know what it is, though.
It involves studying in focused 25-minute bursts
Okay.
with short breaks in between. It's a really great way to structure your time and prevent burnout,
Yeah.
especially when you're juggling other responsibilities.
Okay. I'm starting to feel a bit more hopeful. Like, these techniques are giving me permission to study in a way that fits into my life,
Yeah.
instead of trying to like carve out these huge chunks of time that I just don't have.
Right.
But even with the best study hacks, sometimes like the work schedule itself feels like the biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
How do you balance demanding work hours with, actually passing your classes?
That's so true.
Yeah.
It's all about setting boundaries and advocating for your academic needs.
Okay.
Remember Josh's story?
Yes.
He was so proactive in talking to his supervisor and explaining his situation.
Right. And it worked out for him.
It did.
But it's still scary to have those conversations.
It is.
Any tips for how to approach it?
The source material really emphasizes framing it as a solution-oriented discussion,
Okay.
not a complaint session. So instead of saying, I need time off work, try saying something like, I have these exams coming up. Is there any flexibility in my schedule that week?
So be proactive and come with a solution.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this, Sellerns. A lot of employers are actually quite understanding when it comes to academics, especially if you've been reliable and a good worker.
That's reassuring to know.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered time management and study hacks and even how to navigate those conversations with your boss. But let's be honest, this whole balancing act takes a toll on mental health.
Yeah,
How do you even begin to address that when you're already feeling so overwhelmed?
that's so true. The source material really emphasizes self-care, even if it's just for a few minutes every day.
Okay.
What are some things you do to unwind and de-stress?
Honestly, lately, it feels like I'm just running on fumes.
Yeah,
By the time I'm done with work and studying, I'm just too tired to even think about self-care.
I get it. But even small acts of self-care can make a huge difference.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be this big thing.
Mm.
Even 5 minutes of deep breathing or a quick walk around the block can really help.
That's true. I guess I think of self-care as this like luxurious thing
Right.
that requires a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
But like you said, just incorporating those little moments of calm throughout the day feels a lot more achievable.
It is. And don't underestimate the power of these small moments. It's about recognizing that your well-being is crucial,
Yeah.
not a luxury.
I like that reframing.
Yeah.
It's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually like an act of empowerment.
It is. And think about Sarah's experience. Even in her crazy schedule, she prioritized those power naps
Yeah.
because she recognized that she needed that.
Yeah, it's like she was giving herself permission to rest and recharge even when it felt like there wasn't time.
Exactly.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
But there's still this voice in my head like, what if it's too much? What if I can't handle it all?
Those feelings are totally valid. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, especially when you're facing so many demands. But remember that message we talked about earlier. You were stronger than the challenge you were facing.
It's easy to forget that when you're in the middle of it, but it's so true.
It is. We all have this inner resilience
Yeah.
that we can tap into.
Think about Sarah and Josh.
Yeah,
They faced so many challenges, but they found ways to not just cope, but thrive.
they did. That's just inspiring.
It's their stories are proof that we can handle more than we think we can.
Yeah, and it's not just about getting through it.
Right.
It's about growing through it.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways for our listeners that they can use right away?
Well, we've uncovered some really powerful strategies today. It feels like we went beyond just like surface level advice,
Yeah.
and really got into like the mindset and the techniques that can actually help working students not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. The key takeaways for me are like proactive communication, mastering those micro-study sessions,
Yes.
and remembering that self-care isn't a luxury.
It's like essential.
It is.
It's part of the equation.
Yeah, it has to be a part of it.
It's funny, we started this deep dive by talking about how overwhelming it can feel to balance work and school.
Right.
But I'm actually feeling hopeful now. I'm even feeling kind of excited.
I am too.
Like those feelings of overwhelm are being replaced by like a sense of, I can do this.
It's so true. It's the power of knowledge and perspective, right?
Yeah.
When we understand the challenge and have the right tools and mindset, we can change that feeling of overwhelm into a feeling of agency.
We can, yeah. It's like we're not just passive victims of our circumstances.
Right.
We're active participants in shaping our own success.
I love that. And I think that's the perfect takeaway for our listeners today.
Yeah.
As you go through the challenges of being a working student, remember to celebrate your resilience world, advocate for your needs, and take care of yourself.
And remember those inspiring stories of Sarah and Josh?
Yes.
They faced those same challenges.
They did.
And they found ways to not just make it work, but to excel.
Yeah. Their experiences remind us that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And you have the strength to achieve your goals.
So if you're facing that mountain of deadlines or feeling the pressure of those back-to-back shifts, just take a deep breath. Remember the tools and strategies we talked about today.
Yes.
And most importantly, believe in yourself. You got this.
You do. You have the power to create your own path toward success that aligns with your values and aspirations.
That's a wrap on this deep dive into the world of working students.
Yes.
We'll be back next time with more insights and inspiration to help you navigate life's complexities.
We will.
Until then, keep those micro-study sessions going and don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Absolutely.